There's a bloodletting going on as I speak. The people in Gaza who sided with Israel are being slaughtered by Hamas. Israel cannot afford, Sean, to sit on the sidelines and watch people who stood up to help them be slaughtered by Hamas. As I speak tonight, there are discussions in Israel about potentially going back in to save those tribes and clans that had the guts to stand up against Hamas. They went in Syria, they'll go back into Gaza if they have to.
I love that he referenced Syria there. Anyway, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham is already clamoring for the genocide in Gaza to continue. I mean, who could be surprised about that? Now, in an interview with Sean Hannity, he said that Israel was considering going back into Gaza in order to stop Hamas from targeting individuals and gangs who collaborated with Israel. And to be sure, Graham actually isn't wrong that Hamas is already making abundantly clear that they intend to go after the groups that they view as their enemies, including groups who teamed up with Israel to weaken them. And by the way, there is evidence that Israel bankrolled some of these groups, and we're gonna get to that in just a minute. But soon after the fragile ceasefire went into effect, a video came out featuring Hamas fighters executing 8 men in the streets. Now, I know about this because Israel supporters can't stop sending it to me as if it proves something. Like, oh look, Hamas bad, so all these Palestinians need to be slaughtered or displaced. It's not the argument you think you're making, but anyway. So those horrific public executions weren't the end of it. So the Palestinian militant group has killed at least 33 people since the ceasefire began last week, and that's according to Reuters. And yesterday, President Donald Trump referenced these killings and pretty blatantly gave Hamas a pass. Yeah, he gave them a pass, believe it or not. Take a look.
You know, they did take out a couple of gangs that were very bad, very, very bad gangs, and they did take them out, and they killed a number of gang members. And that didn't bother me much, to be honest with you. That's okay. It's a couple of very bad gangs. You know, it's no different than other countries.
Let's cue up that video again. Yeah, I want to do a little bit of repetition. Cue it up. But again, I'm speaking directly to the Israel supporters who keep sending me that Hamas executing people video over and over again because they think they're making a point. Listen to your daddy. Go ahead, listen to your daddy.
You know, they did take out a couple of gangs that were very bad, very, very bad gangs, and they did take them out, and they killed a number of gang members. And that didn't bother me much, to be honest with you. That's okay. It's a couple of very bad gangs. You know, it's no different than other countries.
Now, Hamas says most of the people they killed were members of a gang affiliated with a family in Gaza City, likely referring to the, bear with me here, Dagmush family, which is a powerful clan based in Al-Sabra, who Hamas has violently clashed with in recent days. Now, Hamas accused members of this clan of collaborating with Israel following the killing of 2 Hamas fighters, including the son of a senior Hamas leader. So the Dagmush family denies those accusations entirely and even accuses and actually says that they've turned down multiple offers from Israel to essentially collaborate and work with them. So maybe that's not the group that Lindsey Graham is specifically referring to when he talked about Gazans who Israel needs to protect. By the way, can we just stop? Let's pause and acknowledge how laughable it is that Lindsey Graham is talking about the need for Israel to protect Palestinians. They've killed close to 68,000 people that we know of so far. 10,000 Palestinians are missing, presumed to be dead, trapped under the rubble. Israel has no interest in protecting anyone except themselves and anyone who believes in their expansionist project. They don't even believe in protecting Jewish individuals who are critical of the Greater Israel Project, who are critical of what's going down in Gaza, what's going down in the West Bank. That's why this has nothing to do with Jewish people at all. This has everything to do with a foreign government wanting to build an empire. And anyone who stands in the way must be destroyed, whether it's reputationally or by taking their lives. It's so sick. So again, maybe the Dogmoosh family isn't the clan that Lindsey Graham is talking about here. So let's talk about the people he likely was referring to. So in June, an opposition leader in the Israeli government by the name of Avigdor Lieberman accused Netanyahu of arming a Gaza gang with affiliations to jihadi terror groups. And that sounds like an outrageous allegation, doesn't it? Until you remember, Benjamin Netanyahu is the guy who facilitated the funding of Hamas. He's the guy who propped Hamas up. So would you really be surprised if Netanyahu was funding other terror groups? I wouldn't be. So in response, Bibi put out a video admitting to it and chastising his opponent for revealing this information.
שבצד גורמי הביטחון אנחנו הפעלנו חמולות בעזה שמתנגדות לחמאס. מה רע בזה? זה רק טוב, רק מציל חיים של חיילי צה"ל. והפרסום של זה עושה טוב רק לחמאס. אבל לליברמן לא אכפת.
This man is the scum of the earth and should be in prison for the rest of his life. So there he is admitting, yeah, I'm funding the clans. That's right. The same clans that are now being cited as justification to continue annihilating the Palestinian people by people like Senator Lindsey Graham. It's just outrageous, it's insane. So there are actually a few militias throughout Gaza that have allegedly operated side by side with Israel over the course of this genocide. And the anti-Hamas gang that Israel provides the most material to is called the Popular Forces. So it's led by a man by the name of Yasser Abu Shabab. And his gang, which is mostly made up of Bedouins, operates sort of like a paramilitary in an area of the strip under Israeli control. And they have their own base in southern Gaza, where food is plentiful and the 1,500 or so people living there are actually safe from Israeli bombardment. The base's location is strategically important. It sits along the route by which aid trucks must travel when entering Gaza through the Kerem Shalom crossing, a route that aid officials have named Looter's Alley. That's important to keep in mind. And indeed, an internal UN report dated November 2024 identified Yasser Abu Shabab and his gang as the most influential stakeholders behind the systematic and massive looting of convoys. So Netanyahu funds groups, terrorist groups, who oppose Hamas inside the Gaza Strip. And these are the same people who were looting the humanitarian aid as Netanyahu was blaming Hamas for doing so. Even though reporting, including reporting in the New York Times, claimed that there was absolutely no evidence that Hamas was systematically stealing or looting the humanitarian aid. Isn't that outrageous? I mean, you should be outraged if you actually care about fairness, if you care about facts, if you care about reality. What I love about the moment that we're living in, though, is that previously Netanyahu and the Israeli government would get away with this. But we have unlimited independent media now that we can turn to in lieu of the corporate media that omits information, twists the truth, and intentionally lies to the American people. So luckily we're able to know, by the way, this is reported by Sky News. Like the last few graphics I read to you, that was reporting from Sky News. Super Zionist, huge supporters of Israel. But sometimes the facts are so important. It's so obvious, in my opinion, that you can't help but just report it. So they're believed to have been responsible for a violent looting incident last November, by the way. I'm talking about Popular Forces, which are funded and propped up by Israel. They're believed to have been responsible for a violent looting incident last November when 98 out of 109 trucks carrying UN food aid from the Kerem Shalom, area were ransacked by armed men. So the looters allegedly shot at the trucks and detained a driver for hours. The UN said the attack caused injuries to transporters and extensive vehicle damage. Okay, and yet aid organizations say that Israel denied most of their requests for better measures to safeguard convoys and failed to intervene when looting was actively taking place. Well, Israel was actually backing the militant terror group that was engaging in the looting. So why would they provide protection against it when they are literally backing it and funding the group doing it? Even worse, Israel eventually used Abu Shabab's men to help protect Gaza Humanitarian Aid Foundation or Gaza Humanitarian Foundation aid sites, where at least 859 Palestinians were killed between May 27th of this year and July 31st of this year. Popular Forces said it had secured the surroundings of GHF centers in Rafah, but was not involved in distribution of food. But instead of securing the sites, the gang members reportedly shot at Palestinians who were seeking aid. And instead of going to civilians, much of that aid was funneled directly to the gang. And remember, as this is all going down, as a gang that was propped up by the Israeli government was looting the aid, stealing the food, the Israeli government was blaming Hamas for it. Back in August, we interviewed Aziz Rahman, an American doctor who went to work at a hospital in Gaza. He also gave an interview to Theo Von in which he confirmed that the gang did in fact take the aid. Here's a little reminder.
We were in the hospital looking outside and there's like, you just hear this AK-47. And I asked the locals, I was like, I thought you can't have a gun in Gaza. And they're like, you can't. And I was like, so how is that guy shooting a gun openly in the air, trying to get everyone away from the aid? And they're like, they're IDF associated gangs. Abu Shabab is this main gang leader. He works with the IDF. And so his gang basically gets first dibs on the aid coming in. So he and his gang steal the aid and then they go to the market and sell it at super high prices.
And honestly, believe it or not, an extensive, in-depth expose written by Sky News. It was a Sky News investigation that was published earlier this month, uncovered even more about the incredible amount of support Israel has been providing this gang, the Popular Forces. So in interviews, one of Abu Shabab's senior commanders, as well as an IDF soldier serving on the Gaza border, detailed how Israel is allowing them to smuggle cash, guns, cars, cigarettes, and more into the Gaza Strip. In order for these supplies to enter Gaza, requests must be made to a coordination office run by the Palestinian Authority, which then liaises with Israel and various Arab states to ensure the supplies entry into Gaza. The office is basically a communications room with Egyptian security, with Israeli national security, with Jordanian national security. Hassan Abu Shabab, a Popular Forces commander, says, adding that his mechanism, or this mechanism, was created specifically for the use by the Popular Forces. Again, the very gang propped up and funded by Israel. Or let me rephrase that. Indirectly funded by the American taxpayer. Because remember, much of the military activity carried out by the Israelis is financially backed by America. Oh, you had your Medicaid benefits cut? It's okay, because that money that could have helped you is going to a better cause, funding terror gangs in Gaza to fight Hamas and brutalize the Palestinian people. And that very gang is now being referenced by the likes of Senator Lindsey Graham for why we need to continue a genocide in Gaza, why we need to continue bankrolling atrocities in the Gaza Strip. You see how this works? They think you're stupid, but you're not. I know you're not. It's just that there have been gatekeepers of information for far too long, and now we're starting to see things very clearly here. The injustice makes me sick. One more statement from Abu Shabab. It provides us with weapons and money and with everything our people and forces need. Now, Israel has allegedly supplied the group with Kalashnikov assault rifles, including some weapons seized directly from Hamas. Interesting. I thought Israel wanted to demilitarize and disarm the people living in the Gaza Strip. And food, Hassan says, is provided free of charge by a number of donors, including the GHF, and is delivered to their camp by merchants. An active IDF soldier even confirmed Hassan's claims while speaking to Sky News, saying that Israel helps Yasser Abu Shabab. It gives him grenades, it gives him money, it gives him vehicles, it gives him food, it gives him all types of things. The cooperation with Abu Shabab mainly goes through Israel's security service, Shin Bet, or some other state mechanism. We just bring in the food, make sure it arrives in Gaza. Now, they've even coordinated militarily. Sky News found evidence suggesting coordination between the gang and the Israeli Air Force in at least 2 battles fought by the popular forces. So why would Israel support them? Right? That's the big question here. Well, Israel's backing of groups like Abu Shabab's is intended to undermine Hamas, obviously, and to ensure that Israel maintains a level of control in Gaza. So Amjad Iraqi, a senior analyst at the International Crisis Group, says that Israel's use of the popular forces against Hamas mirrors the way in which it previously supported Hamas against its secular rival Fatah. The idea is that the more you can remove the hegemony of any particular faction, the more difficult you make it for society to resist the occupation. That's what's really going on here. That's why Israel props up people, or these people specifically, and now it's given Lindsey Graham the perfect opportunity to use them, to cite them as the excuse for continuing the military campaign in Gaza. And while Donald Trump seemed to give Hamas a pass for public executions, he also, after getting plaudits from the Israelis, of course, he also threatened to go back into Gaza if they refuse to disarm.
How long will it take Hamas to disarm, and can you guarantee that is going to happen?
Well, they're going to disarm, and because they said they were going to disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them.
How will you do that?
I don't have to explain that to you. But if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. They know I'm not playing games. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently.
Are you going to disarm Abu Shabab's gang, which is getting its grenades and its Kalashnikov rifles from Israel? This whole thing is super sick. But you're armed with the knowledge to push back against these narratives. And I want to thank our producer, Kate Bettino, for putting this incredible segment together. This is the type of reporting that matters the most. Don't get fooled into making our country poorer to aid and abet ethnic cleansing and genocide carried out by the Israeli government. It's that simple.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.